This tutorial will walk through the basics of how to make a simple model in Fusion 360, how to save that model as a .stl file, and how to prepare that file for the 3D printer. First thing you want to do is make sure that you're working in your own folder in whatever class page, whatever class you're in. Once you're inside your own folder, go ahead and hide the data panel so you've got enough space to work. I will create a sketch. I'll go ahead and select the top plane right here. We just need to make a basic shape. I'll go ahead and do an inscribed polygon. We're going to put the center right at the origin. We'll make sure that you've got 6 sides. We're going to make a hexagon. We'll go ahead and make the radius of our polygon just 1 inch. We would make a nice small object so that it's quick to print. So if the radius is 1, the whole thing will fit inside a 2-inch circle. We'll go ahead and hit enter, and that will create our hexagon with a 1-inch radius to the farthest vertex. Next thing we want to do, just put one of your initials in there. Click anywhere. You don't want to click on the origin. That'll lock it right there. So click anywhere in the blue space. I'll put my first initial D, and we want this to be about 1 inch tall. And then I'm going to grab the blue circle here, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. I'm just going to put it in the center. That looks good. I'm going to hit OK, and then come up here and hit Finish Sketch. I'm going to come over here to my view cube. I'm going to hit the Home button. I like to see this in the perspective view, so it's a little bit easier to see when I'm extruding things. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this. We're going to call this 3D print initial. I'll go ahead and save that. I'm going to come up here to the extrude command. It's already selected. It looks like it's selected the entire profile. If I extrude this upwards, we're just going to extrude it 0.1 inches, and I hit OK. My sketch goes away. I can always come back to this arrow and turn my sketch back on. The problem is that the sketch is on the bottom of that shape. Since I extruded upwards, the sketch is on the bottom. It's going to be hard for me to get to that letter D, so I can extrude that upwards. So I'm just going to come back down here to my timeline. I'm going to come right-click on that extrude and say Edit Feature. It brings me back to the extrude command. And instead of going upward 0.1 inch, I'm just going to go downward, negative 0.1 inch. It'll be the same size material and same body and everything, but now my sketch is still on top of my part, which is going to make the next step a little bit easier. I'm going to come back and hit the extrude command again. It's got the whole profile selected. I'm going to close out of that, and I'm going to select just my initial. I'm going to select that profile, and we'll move that one up 0.1 inch. We'll use the join operation so that these two things are the same body, and hit OK. And go ahead and turn off your sketch. And that's our basic model. I'm going to go ahead and save this. We don't want to do anything too complicated. We just want to make sure we can go from Fusion to the 3D printer. Once I have this saved in Fusion, I'm going to leave the solid tools, come over here to where it says Tools. It brings up a whole different set of options. Come up here to this first one on the left where it says 3D Print. I'm going to select 3D Print. It asks me for my selection. I'm just going to go ahead and click my little tile with my initial on it. I'm going to uncheck where it says Send to 3D Print Utility. I'm going to click OK. So bring up a dialog box to save it as an STL. So we'll call this 3D print initial. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm just going to go ahead and save it on my desktop so it's easy for me to find, but save it somewhere that you can locate it later. It's taken this model that you've created and it's saved it as a .stl file. So we are now done with Fusion. I'll go ahead and close that out. And we're going to open up Prusa Slicer. Previous video showed how to download and install Prusa Slicer. So we'll open up Prusa Slicer. We'll go ahead and expand that. First thing you want to do is make sure that you select the correct type of printer. The Mark III printers are the ones that are in the big design den. The Mark II printers are in the Innovation Studio. So we'll be printing this in the design den. So we're going to leave Mark III selected. Next thing you want to do is come up here to File. And you're not going to open a project, but we are going to import that STL file that we just created in Fusion. We want to import that into Prusa Slicer. So I go back to my desktop, and there it is, 3D print initial. So I'm going to open that file, and it's going to open up. If I zoom in, it's going to open it up super, super tiny. The problem is, when I designed it in Fusion, I designed it in inches, but Prusa Slicer is based in millimeters. So when I designed it to be 2 inches across, Prusa Slicer thinks it's 2 millimeters. So I come over here to the scale factor. This should be locked, so that it changes all the axes at the same time. And there's 25.4 millimeters to an inch, so we need this to be 2,540% bigger. And when I hit enter, that'll go ahead and make it the correct size. Next thing I want to do is go up here and start looking at some of the settings. We want to print things at the 0.3 millimeter draft setting. You can select options that will print it with more detail, but those will take a lot longer. I'll show you what I mean here in a second. We'll select 0.1. This is not what we're going to use for the test. For filament, we're just going to say generic PLA. That's the just basic PLA. We're saying no supports, and 50% infill is fine. When I slice this with the 0.1 millimeters detail, it says it's going to take 34 minutes to print. That's not terrible, but if I go back and change this to 0.3 millimeters, it's gone away because we are in the slicer preview. If I come back here to the 3D body preview, my object is still there. When I go ahead and slice it now with a 0.3 draft, it tells us it's only going to take 16 minutes. So it's a whole lot faster with your bigger layer heights. So we'll go ahead and do that. This information here, how many filament meters you're going to use, 1.64. The estimated time, we use normal mode for 16 minutes. You'll need that information for the 3D printer log. You can zoom in and look at what it's going to be. It'll show you all the actual layers of filament that it's going to lay down. Last thing you have to do is select Export G-code. It'll bring to an option to save this G-code, and you will need to save this file. Leave everything as it is. 3D print initial tells you the layer height, it tells you the material PLA, and it tells you it's printing on a Mark III's, and it tells you the time. Leave all of those things in your file name. You'll take one of the SD cards from the 3D printer, and you'll make sure that you save this file to that SD card. Okay, I don't have one in this computer right now, so I'm not going to do this step. But you'll save this file to the SD card into the proper folder, and then you will be able to take that SD card over to the printer, and you'll be able to print. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and wish you the best of luck in getting your Fusion models to be able to print on our printers. Have a great day.